People are going to say all you will do is fail because of how you're built or the environments you come from, just like I did. But now everything to me is all I can do in this journey is learn. And when I learn, I grow. And when I grow, I prosper. And when you reframe sentences, reframe environments, reframe people, guess what you're going to get? A bucket list life. And you tell me what that's worth.
Welcome to the Bucket List Life Podcast with Trav Bell, the world's #1 bucket list expert. Bucket List Life's mission is to help you get off the treadmill, stop Groundhog Days, hack your habits, and live a regret-free life. Because we know life's way too short not to live your bucket list life. So please welcome your host, Trav Bell, the Bucket List Guy.
Hello, bucket listers. Welcome to another episode of the Bucket List Life podcast. I'm so stoked that you've tuned in for yet another amazing episode. And today's guest, here we go, is the Jeffrey Morgan. How are you, buddy?
Thanks for having me, Trav. What an introduction. Better live up to that. What a podcast to be on. I love the name of the podcast. It's how we live. Go out and live your life like it's a highlight reel and tick off all those bucket list things before life just chews you up and spits you out.
Oh, there you go. Boom, straight to the point. That's exactly what what I'm expecting of you, mate. Just get straight to the point, because I know that you're a very blunt, straight to the point guy that loves giving advice, and you're helping a truckload of people around the world, which is awesome, mate. First quick question. You've, I think I saw you, first class Dubai, Emirates Airlines, I think recently on the gram. When you're coming into a country and you've got to fill in an incoming passenger card, and that tiny little space that doesn't allow any of us to write anything really because of the limited space. In the occupation area, what do you put as your occupation?
Leadership consultant. So that's what we do. A lot around leadership. I'd love to put life changer, to be honest, and just label myself that way because of what we do. We change lives. We empower people to the greatest version of themselves, the bucket list of themselves. But in general, what we find is in the real world and going into a corporate space, athletes, soldiers, just into the real world in general, we need some form of title that people understand and then question as to why. What's a life changer and what's that actually mean? So leadership consultant is what we put on there, legend.
Yeah, awesome. Leadership consultant. Well, that's a first. And we want to put as little as possible on there so we don't stop at the border, right? We came across each other at the recent event that I spoke at with a mate of yours, shared the stage with a mate of yours, good mate of yours, Jeremy Donovan. And, what a legend, brother from another mother. Just a legend of a guy. We met in passing and he spoke about culture. He's been on this podcast before. He introduced me to you. He just gave me a complete fucking history lesson on Aboriginal culture and how that can pay forward into our white man culture. Oh my God. I was schooled. Mate, how do you know Jeremy?
The Aboriginal community, everyone knows everybody, and obviously Jez went through his own little journey in life similar to mine and went down a path of, and the path of was we became byproducts of our community and what we saw we became. So we lacked the role modelling during that period, and obviously what happened in Australia's history led to us thinking normal behaviours were toxic behaviours. So yeah, to see Jez now thriving and understanding that there's more to life than what we used to be, similar to myself. It was just because of how we were built and we had to shift and change that. And he's a champion, to be able to shift that. People try and think about just losing weight or bettering yourself. It's so hard for the individuals, let alone starting 10 steps behind the 8 ball. And it doesn't make it any right for the choices we made, and you'll hear those probably during this journey. But in general, if we can, you can, and that's the biggest message behind it all. Traveling first class to different countries to speak, on leadership around, you wear an earpiece and that translates into their language. Unbelievable. So once upon a time, that would not have been possible, and it shows that once upon a time we weren't possible, but by taking action, we created the action we want within our life.
A boy from Redfern, first class Emirates. Hang on. Take me back. There's a story here. Take me back. Where'd you grow up? How'd you grow up?
Everly Street, Redfern, one of Australia's most notorious streets. And as I said, byproduct of that community, everything that you could think of that could go wrong within the world and the community was what went, I wouldn't say wrong, it was just how we were built. Sometimes I look back and I always get asked, what would you tell that 12-year-old kid that ran away and went out onto the streets of Sydney? I was homeless at that point in time for a couple of years.
12? You left home?
12, left home and then in and out of the community. And when I'd come in and out, there was everything you could think of, dysfunction, destruction. And we don't need to go deep in, I'm happy to go deep in and delve in those. But if you're growing up and seeing DV or you're seeing child sexual abuse or you're seeing whatever it was within the community, drugs, alcohol, badge of honour, as I've said many a times, to go to jail, just like Jez, we thought it was so normal. Our uncles, our community leaders were leading the charge by doing things that were wrong within the world, but we didn't know any better. We just grow up and we see it and that's how you make money, that's how you conduct yourself. And at some point in time, you start to sort of grow into a different version. And there was many a times where people would say, do you know what your totem is? Or, that connection to culture. And people might think, this isn't for me. I'm not of culture. What is your own culture that you feed to yourself? What are you, we have huge values, respect and principles that people won't understand. And they say, they're all drunks. I've heard it many a times, but am I drunk on a first-class flight and do I judge everybody else who's not on a first-class flight? Why aren't you like me? Why are you not being good enough? I could easily sling that back, but that's not how we make the world a better place, Trav. For us, it's about how can we bring you up into a better position. And if we all understand that or seek to understand that, how other humans are in a position, why are they there? And you can't blaming a 12-year-old kid who was abused at home, was fearful of his own home and community to run out onto the streets and then be accepted by somebody and loved, cared for, valued and mattered. I always talk about those 4 things. Now I'm, whether it's, I jumped into graffiti and they all love me and I was like, they actually love me, not be abused physically or, sexually or something of that nature, and now be on the streets where I feel safe around other street kids. Then when I get locked up in a position where I feel safe in there, I'm not being abused, I've got food, I've got TV, I've got a nice warm bed. So people got to understand that whole conversation, that's just on that level, let alone life's level itself. And many people sitting in bedrooms right now, and we can say, you just got to get tough and get out on the street and be resilient. But how? Tell that person the step-by-step process, just as I wanted as a 12-year-old kid, and the world will be a better place, period.
That's the thing. Like it's because you've done, like you're out there helping people, and I love your catch cry, if it will, you build better humans. You do a lot of this personal development mindset work, right? And at the end of the day, it's easy for you to kind of because we do so much of it, it's easy for you to gloss over what was the foundation of all of that before you became, the mindset coach that you are now. Because it's the breakdown before breakthrough, but it's the real meat, if you will, is the decisions that you made to go, fuck this, I'm going to flip the script. And so I think that's the crux of a lot of our conversations on the Bucket List Life podcast, mate, is to get to that decision point, that inflection point, that fork in the road, right? We're going to go back and forth because you want to go like positive, like let's go. But the real balls of it is in this inflection point, right? So if I go to your Instagram, the first thing I was thinking is bank robber. Hang on. That's a bit isn't that a bit 1970s, mate? I don't know, you're not that old. What's going on there?
I'm 51. For those
I'm 51 too. There you go.
There you go. And I think the biggest one in and around that, people think that my life, especially social media, the gram's one of those places where, especially if we're personal development, leadership, positivity, looking through a different lens and perspective, then you're going to see that person who comes out and brings that magic to the world. But what got me there, and as you spoke about, kid being abused and being on the streets, not feeling loved, not feeling that you matter in this world, not having a vision, purpose, and why to life. What was I doing? I was just wandering out in the world, hoping that things were going to happen. Look, as much as we've got structure now, my business is in a place where we're going through a transition at the moment and elevating that business. And I'm stuck in between a rock and a hard place, and I want to go. And there's frustration there, there's stress, there's fear. Look, what happens if all this investment that I put into it doesn't go right? It's just like, we're all human. And in the end, the only difference is I've committed, I've gone all in. And if I was all in, so we go through a conversation of development with the business, and there's these different parts of the business: sales, marketing, management, PR. And it's easy to sit there and go, you go through a meeting and they say, here's what the investment is. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop your business into the place and space you want it. As if I'm not going to have fear, whether you've got money or whether you don't. This work is Travis going to actually deliver on what he says he's telling me he's going to happen. And they could be one of the greatest branding people in the world, or marketing people in the world, or business development people in the world. Could be Tony Robbins, right? But you're sitting there, and because of how I'm built, I'm doubting Tony Robbins. That's just totally normal for us. There's no doubt Tony Robbins has the same underlying conversations going on in his head, just like all of us, and I do too. It's just how you manage those, because once they come up, do you have the emotional intelligence and strength and resilience to put it into a map or a roadmap that gets you out of that really quickly, rather than sitting in it and putting it in what we call your invisible backpack of life?
So when did you flip the script? Was it being in the clink? What was the inflection point for you?
I think more because I felt safe there. So it wasn't a matter of, and then when I went there, Redfern was there, and it was so notorious. Everyone knew Everly Street, Redfern. So we were like movie stars when you go in there. And I mean that, I'm not in a big headway, but they'd be like, oh, they're from Redfern, they're from Redfern. So you didn't have a fear, because you not only were you built violently, secondly, you had the boys that would have your back the whole time. And then you just went along with that. What you've been taught, that's who you are. That's your identity. And I had this identity, I had a complex, I suppose, where I started to look at myself. People asked me my totem and what was culture to me. And
what do you mean by totem? Unpack that.
Each tribe will have a particular totem, and that totem relates to that particular tribe in that area.
We're talking an Aboriginal tribe?
Yeah, that's correct. So for us, mine was Mullion, or the eagle, and I didn't even know that. And that, to me, when I go home and I see the eagle or Mullion, for us, that's a reminder of who you are and the strength of the past generations and what it was built on: values, respect, morals, beliefs, principles. And underlying, you sit with an Aboriginal person, you actually sit with an Aboriginal person. A lot of people wouldn't do that, because they're like, oh, they're drunks, they're violent, they're angry, they're criminals, we represent so much of the justice system. But even those people that have gone through the justice system, if you sat down with them for 5 minutes, you're like, people will know I'm a bank robber. And that's reflective of what I was taught by my grandmother and mother. And that means that my culture was strong within me, and I started to build that identity. So about 16, I was being asked these questions, and I felt like I was lost, Trav. I just went, wow, I don't even know who I am. I say I'm Aboriginal, I say I'm from Everly Street, but you can just say you're Aboriginal, or you can say that you're a dentist, or you can say that you're a personal trainer, especially, right? But then go and eat bad foods. What is the representation of your chosen identity that you build into yourself? That is it a true version, or is it the one that you just project out on the gram? I'm going to post out this nice car or something of that nature. Post out just the most authentic version of yourself. And when I say post out to the world. And that means, who are you? What identity do you carry to the world? And I don't go out to impress anybody. I just be myself. And at the right time, in the right place, the right people will be sitting beside me.
Love it, bro. So what I'm hearing is, and please correct me, that it took you kind of going back to, into your heritage, learning the totem, learning the culture and respecting it more than you did previously, for you to then honor it and proudly flip the script on the come up, and to not be like the mentors, the guides, the parental figures before you. Like, and I remember Jeremy saying the crazy amount, like, was he saying like 100% or something like that of inmates in the Northern Territory are Aboriginal, something like that? Is that true?
Absolutely. I can go to,
So far.
there's a youth detention centre out in the west here in New South Wales where every single inmate in that detention centre is Aboriginal. Every single one of them.
I can't. It's so bad. Oh, mate.
Here's the thing, Trav, and I want people to understand this.
Here's the thing, mate. Like, I just want to interrupt. Not everyone flips the script. And when I say that, turns the other cheek. Some people just go back and recycle. And whether so what is the secret sauce of what? Because I'm tipping. Look, I wish it was not this, but I wish everyone went to jail and figured themselves out and then went, you know what, I'm going to do good. I'm going to pay these lessons forward. Off I go. Be a better example. But that's not happening, is it?
No, it's more the identity of who you are and what you want from life. So not only did I was asked those cultural questions, but then I started to ask other questions. We were stealing Porsches and luxury cars to do these ram raids back then as a kid. And before...
Oh, you did it in a nice car. You were stealing nice cars to...
We didn't have...
luxury, yeah, that's not...
Yeah, we had this thing, obviously growing up where we did wear stuff the rich and all of the above. But it was a mindset that was built into us because of how we grew up, right? And we felt the rich had affected our culture. But realistically, I just didn't understand the world. I was too young. And then as I started to be asked these questions about culture, I also asked my questions about life. If they're driving that Porsche, how did they get it? What did they do? And could you do the same? And then we were sitting up for 24 hours doing particular things, setting ourselves up, doing things within life. And once you understand that, you can get to a position in life where you could say, well, if they can do it, why can't I? What do I need to learn and earn to be able to better myself? And once I started, what is the meaning of life? What's on your bucket list? What's going to happen at the campfire life? So the campfire life, Trav, you sit around as Aboriginal people, we have a yarning circle, and we're all talking. You're at that circle, Jeremy's at that circle. Just tell us about your life. I travelled here. He's been with the Dalai Lama, the King, the Queen. He's been here, there, and everywhere, right? What an interesting story. We're sitting there, and we're all like, oh, wow, this is a great story at the campfire. A couple of marshmallows, happy days. But you don't want to get to the end of your life and say, I could have met the Dalai Lama. I could have traveled to this position. I wanted to start that business. I wanted to have kids. Or whatever it is that you want to do, your podcast name defines it all. What's on your bucket list? And I started to say, I didn't really realize even what are the pillars of life. Now I understand that. Relationships, finances, and your health, quality of life, your wealth. Even what's the affliction where I always hear money's and everything. Well, what's it for? Just to pay your bills and eat food? And then on the back end of it, when someone says that, I say, so do you have money? Do you know what it feels like to have money and be able to free up time to spend more time with your family? What would it feel like to be able to spend more time with your kids? If you've got kids, or travel the world because that's what you want to do on your bucket list. And once you understand that, and I did that at 16, I started to shift and say, I don't want a part of this anymore. But it
16. That's early that's early, man.
I didn't change until I was 37. So it was 21 years of hard lessons that became blessings of my life. I always say lessons are blessings of your life, which means you've learned from it, which means you learn from it. And most people will look at it as a destructive set. And that means that, you don't know what's happened to me. Well, yeah, things happen to you, but as long as you see it as that, you always see it through that deficit model, and that deficit model is going to take you where you don't want to go. If that was a bad way of life, would you want to, I'm going to bring you a bad life for the rest of your life. Would you want to go down that path? No one wants to do that. So deep dive yourself, ask yourself these questions, and start the move towards the life you truly want.
How do you go from, I dare say, scarcity thinking to abundance thinking?
Absolutely. You got to understand how you're built. So even that was a great question on the back end of that. How are you built? Because what I think is like, money's not everything. Stuff the rich, stuff non-Aboriginal people. I always say non-Aboriginal.
The government, the whole bit,
All that. The police are no good. Look, there's police out there just doing their things. There's some that do. It's just like Aboriginal people. The weirdest thing, Aboriginal people are apparently all drunks. Well, I'm flying first class, and I know there's many others doing great things in life, whether they're in business, in just workplaces, contributing really well, athletes, and all of the above. You got to understand that you can't blanket. I could sit there and say Australia's got a drinking culture, and have a look out there every single Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Everyone's at the pub drunk, betting and gambling and cheating on their partners, having nose beers in the toilets. But who am I to sit here and judge somebody, right? Tell me how I should be a better person. Look, and they'll drop a comment, bank robber, scum, this, that, yeah. And that's cool. I understand that, right? I never will say that what I did was cool. Like, I can, if I go back to that, Trav, at that point in time, and you ask me what it was like, I'll say it was cool. Because it was. We didn't know better, right? And driving a Porsche when, like, it was a dream. We were young kids coming out of a rough suburb that no one had ever driven a Porsche. So for me to drive a Porsche at the speed I wanted, and then we got into Formula One and we thinking we're Michael Schumacher and all, like, it was cool then. But looking back on it now, the amount of damage we've done to people, it's not cool, right? But in reality and the conversation in between, how did we even get there? And you got to go, and this is for everybody on that question, go back and ask yourself, how did I get in this spot where I can't manage my emotions, my finances, myself? I don't have a purpose to life. And then you start to say, maybe your parents taught you that or your environments taught you that, which I guarantee did. And how can I then change that? Because I don't want that. There must be more. If Travis is loving the surf every day and he's loving life, how can I feel like that for myself? But what is it for you want to do?
On that, two things. One, this is the first time that anyone's mentioned nose beers on a on this podcast. And guys, if you don't know what nose beers are, just ask your local deviant. This cracked me up. But in order to embrace personal development, you've got to drop, and be coachable, be open and coachable, right? You've got to drop ego. Now, on the come up, you're developing this fucking armor. You've been in jail. You develop it. You're like, fuck you, fuck you, white man, fuck you, government, fuck you, cops, fuck you, everyone. And even to a certain extent is FU culture too. I don't know why I just said FU, but at the end of the day, you got to drop ego and then be coachable. So unpack that for me.
You look at yourself, and as I started a deep dive, I was like, all right, tell me the ceiling. And I didn't understand this conversation. I've built it over the years, but I used to say, all right, I want to start a business. My ceiling on business in community was zero. No one had ever done it. So I was like, if I said, Trav, you in my community, tell us about business. You're like, I don't know. They're out there somewhere. You know what I mean? You go and buy some stuff. That would be the level of conversation. So I started to go, what is it that you want from this life? And understanding that personal development journey. What about your emotions? Our first response is violence. So is that a cool one? Yeah, it is, because I protect myself and I'm tough. Well, wait a second. You get locked up for that. You're away from your kids. You're away from your community. You're setting what type of example for your kids. So I deep dive those questions. Serving 20 years in jail, you get to a point where you go, you know what? Like, how are you built? Is this really serving you? So I'd go and the judge would say, here's 7 years. And I said, no problem. Do it standing on my head, in my head.
Oh, God. Really?
Yeah, like that's how you're built, right? Who cares? The boys are there and we're going to have good fun during that 7 years. And I'll go back out and run amok again. But the reality is, I'd sit there and I look outside and I just see birds flying free as an example, Trav. And sometimes you're just like, I wish I could be that bird. And, I wish I could just be air and disappear and no one would.
Mate, it sounds, but what you're saying, let me just marinate on that for a second, because what you're saying sounds like Shawshank Redemption, but were you really inside going, like looking at birds and freedom and blue skies and going, you know what? Okay, this is why jail exists.
No, I was just like,
now I want the opposite to that.
Yeah, I'd be like, what is the opposite to this? And how do other people survive out there? And
how does it? Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I'd say survive because I was built on survival. I didn't have the word thriving in my environment. And realistically, unless I was out making money and that was my thriving, then I'd be like, do you have I started to do skills audits on myself. Like, oh, you don't have a university degree, you haven't done education, this, that, and the other. And I was like, could you do anything that you set your mind to? Yes, you could. Do you have perseverance built into you? Yes, you have. Do you have determination? Yes, you do. These different words. And I said, what if you put that into business? I'd pick up books, Trav, and I'd be reading business books, and I'd have no understand ROI. I'd be looking at it, and it would make my head spin. Because no one in my community or life had ever spoken that to me. And to do that, I just had to keep showing up to it. And honestly, I'd feel dumb. You feel dumb and you go, I don't know what this is. And that was many years ago. The more you practice it, like weights, the stronger you get at it, right? So I just kept showing up. The weirdest thing about it all, Trav, you get these sentences, and if you're good inside, you get out at your parole period. So my last sentence was 10 years with 7 on the bottom. You have to serve 7. If you play up, you might have to serve those 3 years. There's people that fight and take drugs, and they'll serve the whole 10 years. I always wanted to get out on 7 years, so I'll go, what I'll do is I'll do education so they can't knock me back on my 7 years. And I'll get there, I'm going to present a really good case. And I'll be honest, it was to deceive them and I want to get out and get back into let's roll and make some money. But organically, I changed myself. And sometimes I call it cross-stacking now in business, where we do one thing, but we don't, say your training is an example. You wake up and make your bed. That's discipline. Discipline there will relate to your business and what you need to do when you don't want to do it as an example. So I started to do stuff with that nature. What's my cross-stacking inside here? And honestly, everything I wrote out in these journals, which I still have, I put into a program because I asked myself, imagine how many questions. The last 7 years, I deep dived myself to depths of the ocean no one's ever been. And I had pain, I had suffering, I had bad thoughts, I had darkness, but I had a lot of brightness as well. For the first time, I started to have some form of vision and purpose in my life. And I started to realize, I had kids, Trev, that I wasn't a father, I was just a contributor to making them, bring them out to the world. That's the reality, right? And they're still straining those relationships because of how I was built. Did that truly serve me? So that's, they were my purpose, they were my way. And to this day, it's something I'm still trying to fix with my kids because I lost 15 years. But I can't just dwell on that. I can only focus on how I can be better from this point onwards.
Like you're a guy, when I first met you, although it was a brief interaction, you've fallen on your own sword and you've really taken complete and utter fucking responsibility. You don't blame anyone. You've put your own oxygen mask on first. There's no ego when you could have one. And, the law of reciprocation is no doubt like you being, not talking, because we can talk really well, not talking about success, not talking about being a great example, but being a great example. That's what I got from you. You radiate. I don't say this often, but you radiate a positivity, an optimism, and which is what I love. Love being, you're one of these guys, mate, that when you catch up for a wine, beer or coffee, not nose beers, but wine, beer or coffee, you feel empowered afterwards. You feel, glass half full, not half empty, because, you're not one of these guys that when you catch up with them, you feel like you need to fucking wash for a holiday, There's enough of them out there, right?
Literally. And I understand that too. Jeff Fennick, who's a good friend of mine, it's a crazy story even that. But Jeff Fennick, who's a great friend of mine now, he says, you got 2 ears, 1 mouth, listen twice as much as you speak. And I had to take away the ego. And sometimes, people heard at the front of this podcast, first class travel here, there and everywhere. You got to understand people, I get it, you're wanker and all of the above on the gram, right? But people don't understand that I'm saying I was this kid that was homeless, locked up for 20 years, nothing to even reflect a good father or role model within our community, not built on our culture, values. And the list, I could go on forever, Trav, but the point to it all is I posted to say, far out, if I can do this, because I followed my passion, my bucket list every single day. Trav, I could show you my phone and there's a bucket list in there of things I want to do. Every year, without fail, my partner Sal and I will pick a different location that we want to go to. Like Egypt last year as an example. These different places, and maybe it's a different country. Budapest for my partner. You see, I wouldn't have gone to Budapest, right? Well, you get there and you're like, it's one of the most beautiful countries I've ever been to, and I'd recommend to every single person that's never been there to put it on your holiday list. And that's the beauty of doing things that you don't want to do, because you're going to discover the world and learn culture, and that culture from Hungary or from our culture or from your own self. When we cross paths, that builds you into a stronger human, and as you said, radiates out to the next person standing, by your side. And you want to be around those infectious people that show you that you can. And
100%. Love that.
As you said,
on that,
you want to take a holiday from the next conversation you see. Yeah, you'll see them on the street and you're trying to steer clear of them. We want to be around a better world, and we can all contribute to that space.
And so you're coaching people, speaking out there, who are some of the organisations, just a quick snapshot of the type of organisations that you get in front of, that you've been in front of, and give us a lowdown on some of your coaching that you're doing.
We became very diverse. I was a trainer nutritionist. Brother and sister died by suicide 2016. I start to sort of shift away from PT. I'm doing it. I go outside the gym at that stage. I'm sort of doing it down at Bondi Beach in the eastern suburbs. And then sister 2018 dies by suicide. And I'm like, what? Mental health is huge. And I'm hearing people were coming into the gym to deal with their mental health, right? More than they were learn weights and get a nice body, because they couldn't sleep and other things. So their quality of life was just, I realized it was more than training and nutrition and getting a six-pack. And I became really good at it, to the point where I developed a lot of education systems in major gyms around this country. And they still stand to this day, which I'm proud of, because I was just built different. The way I operated from the old school, I took it into the new school. In 2018, I started to go into schools. I was doing nutrition talks, personal training talks at Australian Institute of Fitness. I'd go in and tell trainers what they could get out of the industry and all of the above. And all of a sudden, I just realized I had this skill. When the brother checks out at 216, I did 86 talks that year. And I went, you know what? It was July, I believe, or in and around there. It wasn't, and I went, 86, if I doubled that, let's say it was 160, 172, right? Could I live off that? Easy. And I'd be doing what I love doing. And I started to shift a bit. I kept a bit of PT because I was building it. And by 218, once my sister checked out, I said, this is it. Like, no more. I'm going down this path and getting in front of people. Defence Force, NRL, corporate organisations, Aboriginal communities, health services, national framework, all the health, Ministry of Health, ACT Health, schools, universities, you name it, we do it. And it's all about business development, personal development, leadership, high-performance habits and rituals, resilience, stress time management, burnout. And for us, it's been, well, how do I know that? Because I was that person. It's I in team. Everyone says no, there's no I in team. So if me and you are in a team and Jeremy and one other person are in a team and we're the four wheels of the car and you fall off because you're not well, the car, it still drives, but not as efficient and effective as it possibly could. So therefore, build into yourself first and the rest of the organisation will be well. And that's what we do really well.
Love that. In closing, what is a bucket list life to you?
It's doing the things what you want, when you want, with who you want, as much as you want. And that means that you've truly honoured yourself around your thoughts. Think of it like this. You die today, Trav. You go up to wherever.
Hang on. I want you to repeat that. And I think this is going to be our social media clip, mate. Go for it. What is the bucket list life? I love this.
To do what you want, when you want, with who you want, as much as you want. What that means is you've got to understand, most people in general will live this life where they think about something, but they don't action something. Now, I'm going to give you a quick example. You die today, you go up to whatever God or whoever it is, that higher power that you believe in. And you get there and they say, hey, have a look at this. And you're like, wow, look at this bloke. Travis, I was driving Formula 1 cars. When did that happen? Oh, and then I went to the moon and I had all this money or girls, whatever it is, right, that you envision. And I say that you had peace, you had happiness, you slept better, you felt better about who you were. And you're like, well, that would have been a great life. And said, that was everything that you dreamed of, Trav. What if I send you back to Earth today, but you can live that life on one condition. As soon as you say, I'm not going to action what I think about, I'm going to bring you back here. Would you take the action to cause the reaction every single day in your life? And everyone would say, yes, please send me back down. I promise I'll honor myself. And that is a bucket list life. When you honor your thoughts and turn them into action, 0.1% better every single day just by having a crack. And all you can do is learn. People are going to say all you will do is fail because of how you're built or the environments you come from, just like I did. But now everything to me is all I can do in this journey is learn. And when I learn, I grow. And when I grow, I prosper. And when you reframe sentences, reframe environments, reframe people, guess what you're going to get? A bucket list life. And you tell me what that's worth.
Well, mate, I think that is one of the best explanations we've ever had of what a bucket list life is on this podcast. Thank you so much for being on the show, buddy. So good to connect. I feel there's going to be round 2 at some stage. And how can people connect with you, bro?
jeffreymorgan.com.au, JEFFREYMORGAN. Reach out. And here's the biggest thing. Some people think that we sell stuff. Oh, he's trying to sell to us now. Just know this. One thing, I used to get the ego in check. The pride got in the way. I got in the way of myself. If I'm not your person, that is cool. But here's a tip to yourself. Take action today. Go out and sign up to that coach, mentor, guide, consultant, whatever it is, elder, that allows you to move towards the greatest bucket list of your life today, not tomorrow. Oh, I'll come back next week. I'll come back when I'm ready, when I'm fit enough, when the weather's right. Just do it today and go out and say, I need to change. And my ceiling is this. Travis is going to get me here. Jeff here, Jeremy here, whoever it is can get you to better spots. Drop the guard and make sure you know your boundaries before you drop your guard. If they step those boundaries, have the conversation respectfully, effectively, and then if they still continue to cross those boundaries, remove yourself from that environment. Until then, trust everyone and give them an opportunity to be a better version and even teach them how that looks if they don't know. And if you don't know, just remove yourself from that space.
Boom, boom. Big shout out to, just the fact that, we've all got, we're coaches and we've got coaches. If not, a band of coaches. I've got 4 coaches. There you go. I've got 3. And always investing is just built into the budget. Personal development is literally a line item.
I've got 4, and I've got 3 other men in a men's group who I learned from. So realistically, I've got 7 people really close to me. I'm ongoingly investing in myself. And don't be afraid to let go of that control, because that control means it keeps you in the space you're currently sitting in. And if that's not living your bucket list life, then something has to change.
I always say, also, we've got to wrap this up, but with coaching, some people might sit on the fence, why would I pay a coach? Well, you pay to play, you pay to get that coach's attention on your thing, whatever that, challenge or problem or gap that you want to close. And so, you pay to play, but also if you've got a sense of urgency, because life is way too short, we're both 51 and time's ticking, you pay to bridge that gap. You pay to, one, get the attention, but also to collapse that time frame between where you are and where you want to be in whatever area of life, right? So again, like Jeffrey just said, you got to drop that ego and get good people around you. Free or paid, just get good people around you. That's so important.
Time compression. Imagine, right? You lock yourself out of the door. You try and get in it. Unless you're going to smash a window and jump in, that's going to save you time, but now it costs you money. So if it's the same principle, what costs more, the window or the door? So you call a locksmith, and he comes up, or she comes up and goes, bang, 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 $300, and you're like, oh man, $300, it took you 3 seconds. That time compression is what you get off a coach, right? And work this out too. Average age of your life, what age you're currently sitting at, how many years are left, 33% of you, or 30 to 33% of your life is spent sleeping. Put that into that mix. How many weeks, years, months do you have left? Start to action your bucket list. Write it out today and start to live that every single other day, and start it today.
Boom, boom. Guys, jeffreymorgan.com. Is it .com or .com.au?
.com.au.
All right. All the links will be in the show notes and to your socials as well, mate. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in once again to the Bucket List Life podcast. You know what to do. Subscribe, like, share, comment, review, love heart, thumbs up, etc., etc. Guys, thanks once again. See you next time.
Thanks so much for listening to the Bucket List Life podcast with the world's #1 bucket list expert, Trav Bell. For more great content, go to www.thebucketlistguy.com. We'll see you next time.